This is Renata Martinez with Think Reliability, and today I wanted to present facilitation tip number 13. In facilitation tip number 13, we want you to consider the work process during your incident investigation. So rather than ending your investigation with a generic statement like procedure not followed or human error, we want the facilitator to drive the discussion to the steps of the work process. And this will help reveal more specific causes within your cause map diagram and ultimately reveal more sustainable solutions. I think you'll find that it will really allow the discussion to focus on the steps of a process or a task that didn't go well versus on the employee or what an employee or a person did. It really shifts the dialogue away from personal behaviors and onto systemic work processes and best practices. By considering and reviewing your work processes during your incident investigations, you're going to do a few things. You're going to minimize blame and or the perception of blame. You're going to get into the details or the minutia of the task where the specific breakdowns were, and you're going to increase the opportunity to improve those work processes and ultimately create more reliable operating practices and procedures. So looking at a 4Y cause map diagram regarding a tank overfill, we're starting to learn that the tank input exceeded the output for approximately 4 hours because inlet valve CV203 was partially open because procedure was not followed. That cause map is absolutely accurate, but by ending the analysis with procedure not followed, your possible solutions will also be generic. So I see over and over again clients want to, well, there's a procedure for that, and we need to reinforce to the employees that they need to be following that procedure. So rather than ending at procedure not followed, I want to take a look at that process. In this specific process, it was a tank offloading process, and this was the very end, but for simplicity, I'm going to call it steps 1, 2, and 3 that were listed in the procedure. The first step was to reduce the feed. The second step listed in the procedure was to line up the valves, and the third was to monitor that tank level. Okay, got it? Well, as I begin to talk to the operators to understand what lineup valves means, that's what was identified in the cause map that didn't go well. We had an inlet valve partially left open. I want to focus on step number 2. So I asked the operators what's required to successfully line up this tank. And looking at it in hindsight, the operators are able to provide all of the steps that are required to successfully offload this tank. So instead of just line up the valves, they go into detail about how they actually have to partially close the inlet valve CV203, then completely close the discharge valve CV204, and then go back and fully close the input valve CV203. And that last step is what they failed to do in this specific incident. So after talking to them, we are able to understand what steps are required to successfully complete this task. And instead of just lining up the valves, we're able to add a little bit more specificity. Additionally, we're able to utilize that information and update the cause map. So then we're able to better understand that the input exceeded the tank output for approximately 4 hours when the discharge valve was closed while input to the tank remained. So the discharge valve was closed because it was closed as part of the procedure, and the inlet valve CV203 remained partially open. A couple causes there. The procedure didn't give specific steps for line up the valve, and additionally they went on to discuss that the training didn't include this specific tank offloading process. So aside from the procedure, there wasn't another opportunity to learn how to effectively complete this task. So as you start to capture those specific steps and breakdowns, you'll be able to update your procedures and processes accordingly. That's processes for how to perform the task, process for how to communicate how to perform the task. That will get into training, and it will be a little bit more specific than just retrain. So as you begin to dig into your problems and build your cause map diagrams, remember to jump over to the work process and consider what those specific work process breakdowns are. And that'll help you to reveal more sustainable solutions within your organization. The PDF that outlines this tip may be found on the website, and you guys know where to find me. Thanks. Bye-bye.